Good evening, everyone. The war is on. War on the reckless driver. War on the public enemy on the highway. The nation fights back, determined to drive and to live. Planes overhead on many main highways in a great many states. National Guardsmen out in the Midwest. Every state trooper in Pennsylvania on the job. Illinois, Arizona, Michigan. The National Guard out. This massacre on the highway must end.
On December 31st, 1955, as Gabriel Heater counted down to midnight, many radio executives were thumbing through their 1956 radio network's annual.
Here's a late one from Detroit. We missed our 8 million goal on cars for the year by only 60,000.
In an editorial within, Arthur Hull, president of CBS Radio, spoke of the medium's new threshold of achievement.
No, nobody is jumping the gun on the New Year's Eve celebration.
In 1955, there were 15 million radio sets produced, the most since 1948. There were now nearly 150 million radio sets in the U.S. This made Hull portend that, in 1956, radio would be an equally powerful tool for both large national advertisers and small local ones.
The Geneva spirit.
Although CBS averaged over 100 news programs each week, dramatic radio continued to draw the network's largest audiences. America was moving, and radio was moving with them. Out-of-home listening now equaled TV viewing. During primetime hours, auto listeners added an additional 40% to at-home audiences.
They pick out the week of Christmas and New Year to send a shiver around the world and make everybody wonder whether they've got that intercontinental rocket.
Rudimentary mobile audience measurement was underway. In one 15-minute period on a Sunday afternoon, Nielsen found more than 3 million people to be tuned in on car radios.
They haven't gone south.
Because of this, as the calendar turned to 1956, CBS expanded its dramatic slate of programs. One of the network's most popular shows, Gunsmoke, aired on Sunday evenings, with a repeat broadcast the following Saturday afternoon. It revolutionized the adult radio western. CBS decided to give its director, Norman Macdonald, a second show. The show would take place in what is now the state of Wyoming and star Raymond Burr and Vic Perrin. It would be called Fort Laramie.
Give me land, lots of land, under starry skies above. Don't fence me in.
Welcome to Breaking Walls, episode 114. My name is James Scully. Tonight on Breaking Walls, as America moves to the suburbs in the mid-1950s, we move with them and examine a radio western called Fort Laramie. Although it only aired for 10 months, it's one of the most critically acclaimed Western shows the genre ever produced. Tonight, we'll find out why.
But I ask you, please, don't fence me in. Just turn me loose.
If this is your first time listening to Breaking Walls, welcome to the show. You can find this series on every podcasting platform and at thewallbreakers.com. Tonight's opening theme song is Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters' rendition of Don't Fence Me In. It's a fitting song for a nation that, by 1956, was very much on the move.
I want to ride to the ridge where the west commences and gaze at the moon till
Join the Breaking Walls Facebook group to keep in touch with news, snippets, photos, and other additions to the podcast at facebook.com/groups/thewallbreakers. And Burning Gotham, the new historical fiction audio drama set in 1835 New York City, is still on its way. Go to burninggotham.com for teasers and more information. You can also support these shows for as little as $1 per month at patreon.com/thewallbreakers.
Let me be by myself in the evening breeze and listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please.
The 6 of us are here have worked together on hundreds, perhaps thousands of occasions. And there was always something, to me anyway, that was rather special about CBS and CBS Productions. And I think a large part of that, certainly in my estimation, was due to a man named Norman McDonald.
You're here.
He started as a page. He started as a page boy, worked up to an assistant director, a clock watcher, later became a director on his own, and I remember working on his first show, which was a rebroadcast of an old local show called Romance of the Ranchos, and it was supposed to go on the Western Network. Actually, I think it dead-ended in the basement. Nobody ever heard it. But at any rate, Norm started that way. He was a man of infinite good taste, infinite good humor, was able to somehow or other bring a cast together.
Harry, he loved actors, which you can't
I
say.
think that's correct. Yeah. He did. He loved actors, and working together, as most of us did, almost every week on Gunsmoke in particular, he developed a sort of a rapport which you find only in repertory companies. I'd like to vote him thanks for what he did for me.
Oh, my.
Indeed.
I second that.
By 1955, Norman McDonald was a radio veteran with thousands of broadcast hours under his belt. He'd been producing and directing Gunsmoke since 1952.
When Gunsmoke went on the air in April of '52, it was really the only one of its kind. In the years that followed, I think there were a good many imitators, some very successful and some just poor imitations.
But the show was moved into TV that fall with a completely different crew, and McDonald was displeased about having Gunsmoke's TV version taken from him.
It was determined to go with Jim Arness, who was a protege of Duke Wayne's and a good actor, although a newcomer, and Dennis Weaver, Amanda Blake, and Milburn Stone, all good, solid actors. Bill Warren really should get a tremendous amount of credit for transferring the shows from radio to television. I think he was able to keep the feel and the intent of what the radio show had been. It was Bill who wardrobed the principals, and for many years they were the only well-wardrobed westerns on the air. Bill was responsible for the kind of photography and the kind of sets.
McDonald was given the role of producer in order to help continuity to the small screen.
I was able to be of considerable help, I hope, by being able to describe how we had pictured the sets, how we had pictured the Long Branch and the street and where the jail cells were and all the other things that we'd worked with in radio. The television show was bought quickly from the pilot film that Bill Warren made and went on the air in September of '55 and was almost immediately well received. Part of this, of course, was that there had been 3 years of pre-publicity because the Gunsmoke radio show had been enormously well received in those 3 years prior, so it was a happy wedding.
Gunsmoke's radio show was one of the first to offer a more accurate portrayal of events and relationships from the Western era, as writer John Meston remembered.
Well, as I recall, or I've been told, we were not the first show that treated Indians as human beings, not just redskins and the only good Indians and bad ones and so on. A number of shows about that, and intermarriage. I think the Indians before that, as I remember, I wasn't around much before that. They were treated in the old way, you know. I think Gunsmoke was, understand, it was the first show that really changed us somewhat. The white man, the way he treated the Indians is a national disgrace. It still is.
And with CBS Radio seeing a rise in profits, it was decided that McDonald should direct a second Western offering. It needed to be as different from Gunsmoke as possible, while still retaining what made the show a success.
Well, I don't like phony stuff, and I knew something about the West, sure. The way people are, the way they talk, the way they behave. I never liked heroes much. So we kind of reversed everything. I tried to do it the way we did with narration, which was sort of an innovation, I think, at the time. Well, we tried to make him just an honest, not a crook like Wyatt Earp, a guy with a sense of tragedy. The guy didn't particularly enjoy the job. No, we worked very closely in radio. I was there all the time. Well, I'm always hired the very best actors, no question of that. You know, they couldn't read a line. They'd let me know with great pleasure, and they're generally right.
The duo decided to focus on the U.S. cavalry during the 1870s, stationed on the eastern border of present-day Wyoming at a place called Fort Laramie. It was near the North Platte and Laramie rivers, located roughly 100 miles from its current namesake city. The area was home to the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho. Beginning in 1834, the fort was an important fur trade outpost, soon becoming a major stopover for the overland stage and the Pony Express. In 1849, the U.S. government bought the site.
There were other shows that were in this general area of Western or period. One of them that I was connected with was Fort Laramie, starring Raymond Burr. It was a cavalry show, again, 1870 or 1875, in Wyoming, and a successful one.
On July 25th, 1955, an audition was recorded with John Dehner in the title role of Captain Lee Quince.
At a walk. Ho! At a trot. Ho! Hot, hot,
Fort Laramie. Fort Laramie, starring John Dehner as Captain Lee Quince. Tales of the dark and tragic ground of the wild frontier. The saga of fighting men who rode the rim of empire. And the dramatic story of Lee Quince, Captain of Cavalry.
Sergeant Gorse.
Yes, sir?
Pass the word to dismount and unsaddle.
All right, Captain.
I'm going up on that little knoll. Maybe I can see Mr. Seibert's party from there. I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. Dismount and unsaddle, pin graze water. Dismount and unsaddle, pin graze water. All right. You unfit that mount before you graze him this time.
Sure, Sergeant. I was just going.
Well, you do it then. Dismount and unsaddle, pin graze water.
We could make camp here, Boat Right. There's water.
Yeah.
We could go hunting and fishing, too. Maybe bake some bread. If you don't like the Army, why didn't you stay in Louisville? I was starving there, too. But at least in Louisville, I never had no Indians after my scalp. You afraid of Indians, Boat Right? Sure. But I'm going to get me one. I got to get me an Indian. Why? Then I won't be scared no more. Well, at least you're not in the stockade. And that's just because Captain Quince needs me. B-Troop's supposed to have 83 privates.
But Dehner turned the role down. Although he was an important member of the Gunsmoke supporting cast, he feared being typed in Western roles.
What's the matter, Boat Right?
I did every accent known to man. South Slabovian, East Yemeni, and I did it with absolute perfection because nobody knew what they sounded like. Not a soul. The director or producer said, well, can you do this and that? And he said, of course I can. And you did it? And he said, beautiful. Because he didn't know what it was supposed to sound like.
Dehner would continue to be featured on Gunsmoke. But for Fort Laramie, McDonald would have to look for a different star.